Esports taking on PSG Talon. We've said those words multiple times throughout the course of the season so far, and likely won't be the last time to say the very least, as Machi on blue side going to go ahead, ban out the Aphelios as well as the Nidalee away from River.
Yeah, another couple of words that we've said time and time again, Aphelios ban in the PCS. Bit of a throwback to Spring, but when you are playing with two of the top teams from Spring, sure, let's target some of the meta from back then. Set pretty omnipresent across the board for the region, as we mentioned. Very strong engage across 3-4 different roles. And yeah, I like that they're trimming it out. The Nidalee ban does kind of suggest to me that Trundle's sky high in priority for Gemini to get some early presence, and his Graves has been such a reliable pick for the team, and that's why PSG are going to get rid of that too.
Get rid of it, of course. Machi, though, they say, all right, you know what, Tank, we're not going to be dragged around the map like we were back at the beginning of the split. No Twisted Fate this time around as it's banned out, but once again, a lot of priority onto things like this Ashe, as once again, it's going to get locked in here for Bruce.
I mean, this region is now boiling down to take your pick between Ashe and Ezreal, and we'll take the other. The AD carry meta feels like it's in a really awkward position in that regard, and yeah, exactly that. Especially when you have, you know, two players that have so proficiently made it apparent that they are really good at these champions, but not so great at anything else. So it feels like it's kind of a trade-off between the two of them, saying, look, you don't mess with our AD carries pool too much, and we'll leave yours a little bit open too.
Come on, I want to see all the bans to roll in, all right? I don't want any of this Ezreal, Ashe, you know, handshake in the bot lane. Give me some spice, especially considering these are considered possibly one of our two best bot lanes when it comes to pairings. Of course, Bruce and Koala have looked stellar. Unified and Kaiwing, do we even have to say anything when it comes to this duo, as they looked absolutely phenomenal? You know, outside of, I would say, group stage of MSS, where even they themselves said, yeah, we looked a little bit awful when it came to playing up against the VCS teams, but other than that, they have looked really good. Possibly going to be seeing, again, this Karma. We'll see whether or not it's going to be going to Hanbi, actually, up into the top lane, as he has been one of the players to bring it out in the league. And for Gemini, it is going to be the Lee Sin getting locked in.
Yeah, and actually touching on that Karma, that is a 3-lane flex for PSG. You have it top, mid, support. All of them have played it. All of them have won with it. But I do want to see this kind of duo of Ezreal Karma united in the bot lane to really give Machi's Bruce and Koala, who have looked a little bit out of sorts, as we mentioned, a real run for their money. As you mentioned, Gemini on the Lee Sin, very proactive early, and that's why, again, I want to see the Ezreal Karma bot, because that is a nightmare to gank, and that is a nightmare to play around.
Yeah, because honestly, like, if it's not going to be the Karma in the bot lane, I want to see level 6 from Machi. I want to see the go buttons be used when you have a solar flare as well as an arrow. This, though, is a bit of a throwback to Spring. River going to be locking in the Rek'Sai, which, you know, there's still other options on the table. They could have went with something like the Trundle if they want to be a little bit more meta, but instead opting on to something a little bit more of a comfort pick for him.
So here I think you just ban 2 mid laners and then take Orianna on 4th pick for PSG. And yeah, as you mentioned, the Rek'Sai, it's a solid counter pick to the Lee Sin. Of course, you just unburrow when he Qs at you and suddenly he's dead. The issue is, it's a very do a lot in the first 15 minutes kind of champion, or don't do anything at all. And as well as that, even if you do explode in the first 15 minutes, you then need to close by the 25-minute mark. Otherwise, you're just relegated to being kind of a ward bot that can mildly inconvenience anyone that thinks about jumping on your carries.
Well, speaking of carries, it looks like trying to limit possibly the pool that might come out from Hanbi if that Karma is not going up into the top lane, getting rid of the Gangplank, which has always been a good fallback for him, of course, one of his signature champions. Interesting here for PSG, though. You mentioned maybe get rid of some of those mid laners. We do see the Zoe ban being brought out, but also the Ornn not wanting to let that one go on over to PK.
So I really think Orianna is sky high in priority for both of these teams. The Wombo combo and the safe lane phase are both too appealing. The only reason why I wouldn't take it 4th pick for PSG is if they want to still have a little bit of mystery, if they do want to, you know, kind of threaten the Karma to be flexed mid.
So we'll see here now as final ban coming out from Machi is going to be the Jace, so getting rid of one of those carries that could be played out into the solo lane. now, like you mentioned, all right, for PSG, do they want to go ahead, show their mid lane now, or do you want to show possibly your support? And again, that Karma can scream, can go into different directions. If it goes into the top lane, you still can, again, get your counter in mid. Options are available here for PSG.
Yeah, and I mentioned that the disengage would be heavy between the Ezreal Karma bot lane, but this is still pretty difficult to gank for Gemini on the Lee Sin. Assuming that you now have an entire bot side of the map that you can't exactly play around, you need something that you can play through top, you need a good gank setup, you need a good lane bully, and this has been one of PK's finest.
All right, so there you go. It's going to be the Renekton getting locked in. Good follow-up CC for a possible gank if Gemini wants to pay some attention up toward the top side of the map, as well as can add a lot of aggression when it comes into that mid to early game during some of those early skirmishes around those objectives. Now for Machi, though, what do you want to pick up here for mission? Do you want to go ahead and get something like a Syndra, or do you want to scream scaling, as we are going to get a Corki getting locked in here for mission? Again, one of his signatures. If you're a mission fan, you know he has a good Corki.
So this is really concerning for me just because the bot lane and the mid lane now are both playing the scaling game, and that means that it's very telegraphed that Machi want to play for top side. That means PSG have the luxury of sending Hanabi onto this Karma if they so wish, and then picking something that can take advantage of that relatively quiet early game. Machi, we said back in spring, they defaulted to scaling up for way too long, time and time again, when we really needed to see them just explode the game in the first 10-15 minutes.
But some spice here coming out from PSG. This is going to be our first Talia lock-in of summer, going into the mid lane here for Tank up against this Corki of Mission. So maybe looking to try and add some action himself with that Weaver's Wall come level 6 and try and make some visits towards some of these lanes.
Yeah, very solid roaming, and as well, when the package isn't available, you do have a faster commitment than the Corki. Also consider that Braum gives PSG a winning bot side 3v3, and that's why I think PSG, they have the advantage here, because not only do they have the Karma top pushing against Renekton, but they now have a bot side that they can legitimately play around. Gemini, you need to watch what he does in this early game, because his options are severely limited.
Well, on to, again, our matchup. Machi taking on PSG Talon, the 16th game these teams have played on stage against each other so far when it comes to 2020. PSG, they own the one game up over Machi. We'll see if Machi could strike back and find some revenge here and tie up the round robin score 1-1 as we go ahead and load on into the Rift.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
I still go on record. This is the weirdest Corki skin. All right? I'm just saying it. It doesn't make sense. Is the dog a robot? Is the dog alive? Those are questions I have that keep me up at night, Abriz.
I am just happy we get to see the new Talia skin. Honestly,
true.
full party Talia, pretty nice. I like it. I used to one-trick that champion, by the way, in support. The issue is, I think Doran Shield got reworked 2 patches after I started playing exclusively Talia, so I got to play it for like 3 weeks, and then suddenly mage supports got nerfed out of the meta because you'd hit someone and they'd regen for more damage than your Q did.
That's true. I do remember that change. That was right when you could start playing some of those burst mages down in bot, and that was when the meta was getting really kind of funky, at least compared to what we were used to for the last, 4 to 3 seasons of League of Legends. But now, this time around, I'm interested to see how Tank does this. It's kind of similar to that Twisted Fate, like we mentioned. Post-level 6, you have the ability to roam and try and make an impact into a side lane, and he was able to dominate the map up against Machi at the opening matchup of the season, of the summer split.
Yeah, Talia's burst is really insane, especially if you consider the fact that River will be actively fishing for Gemini in these counter ganks. You'll probably see the Rek'Sai unburrow into the Talia W, into the Unraveled Earth, into one very dead Corki or Lee Sin. Whoever they set their sights upon is gonna eat a CC chain, and the only real concern I have for PSG here is that while they are really good at counter ganking, playing front to back fights, their engage sucks.
Yeah, no, the engage here is tunnel flash from River and maybe a root from Hanabi, but other than that, maybe a Fisher, but then you lose a lot of your engage. It kind of requires Machi to be the ones that actually pull the trigger, and you might get that out of Koala or PK, but Mission, he ain't going to be doing that for a long while in this game.
Package into the backline 9 minutes in just to cast the Cursus even more. Yeah.
Perfect. I kind of hope he doesn't. Or else,
Well,
I always do coin that Corki's here in the PCS are maybe a little bit too passive. Again, our sample size in summer so far has been primarily G4, which he is rather hesitant to use the package. Mission, though, Mission is known for his Corki. He was able to play it plenty of times. Tank, though, he wants to let Mission know that his Talia is no joke.
Yeah, really good chaining of abilities there. Once you connect one, you connect the rest of it. Valkyrie was on cooldown from Mission as well, so couldn't really do much to get out of that. End of the day, though, you are looking at a world where the Corki is TP, Talia doesn't. And while the Talia passive will help her run back to lane, it does mean Mission has the favorable reset, at least for the next couple of waves.
There we go, though. He only picks up a call in the very end, all right? So even screaming more scaling. Don't wish us to, not looking to fight. PvE only. Gemini on this Lee Sin. I'm just going to go ahead and path on over toward his Krugs. Top side of the map, though, has been lit. It's been lit up by PSG.
It's been lit. Yeah, Karma. It's so good.
Karma top lane, all the action, all the fire, all the passion of PSG. No, I'm just talking about ward coverage, and it all actually just disappeared. I'm getting really tired of the Cassacres coming to us after 2 games already.
The issue I have with Karma top is that Renekton is usually like a bloodbath. It's like, yes, the lane phase is going to be high octane, really heavy on the action, just bully people left and right, skirmish, skirmish, skirmish. Karma makes it so Renekton can't do that, and it's basically a farm/poke fest.
And this is also like, this is Karma on Hanabi, which if you've watched Hanabi at all during the regular season so far of summer, he's been playing stuff like Gangplank, which he's trying to get kills at like level 1, level 2, and having, top side, the jungle applying a bunch of pressure. This time he's on a Karma. It's also a Lee Sin that kind of has to hope for a good engage coming out of PK, and even River was looking to maybe farm something toward mid lane, but nothing really going to happen here, and I guess we are kind of just waiting on that level 6, that go button for a couple of these lanes for both of these squads.
Hey man, Karma for Hanabi. Can't get first blood if you are unkillable. So, yeah, it makes sense.
Don't say that, all right? I do believe Hanabi. Hanabi is the kind of person that will try and push in nonstop on a Karma. Like let's be honest, that is not out of the question.
We want to see that. That is something we want to see.
There you go. He's even trading back. There's your high octane. Hanabi doesn't have any mana, though, this time around, so you gotta be a little bit careful as Gemini's looking for a possible dive alongside. Flash on forward into the stun. PK, though, is he going to be surviving? Yes, he will. He got level 6 at the very last second. There you go. There's your action. First blood onto the Renekton in top lane.
I actually caster-cursed him.
But
also, wow, that was sick. Triumph into Dominus really gave enough health for PK to survive that. I thought he got a little bit overzealous, flash Wing with the empowered Ruthless Predator to get that triple auto attack, big stun burst, tanking the tower, but no, he did absolutely fine to juggle the aggro there, even buffed out his E, the second part of the dice. Really, really clean execution from PK, who again, we had our reservations about come spring, because it's an Aatrox one trick. What's he gonna do? Apparently a lot for this team so far, this split.
Well, living up to his name, all right? PK, you know what it stands for? Player kill.
Player killer.
Player kill. That's what they aim for, and there you go. It's forced Hanabi now on his first back to pick up Ninja Tabbies. I know the most exciting buy-up for your Karma mains. As really now just trying to play passively. I'm interested, though, if Gemini decides to go back up toward that top lane.
Actually, something I didn't touch on back in Champ Select is that Ninja Tabis are so worth for anyone on PSG this game, of course, because despite Corki dealing half magic damage, it's still a basic attack, and that means that it's gonna reduce so much of the damage. 2 AD top sides, you have Ashe, you have Corki, just Ninja Tavi all the way down, even if you would love Mercs against Leona.
Hey, you know what? The start of this game, too, for Gemini, we mentioned, are we going to be seeing, top of the region Gemini? And so far, he's been able to pick up first blood, realizing he has prio as well toward that bot lane. Able to go ahead, pick up the first dragon of the game. Sure, it's only a cloud, but still starts stacking up toward that next one. But here we go. Immediately, level 6 for a tank, and there it is. First kill on the board for PSG as Gemini gets taken down in the jungle.
Yeah, a little bit awkward because, as you mentioned, for some reason Machi had prio bot and mid, when Talia versus a Corki without package should never cede that pressure. PSG, they give the Drake for free, but they pick up a kill on the tail end of it, and now we need to see if River can do much with that pressure he's now generated.
And now tank 2, are we going to see that pretty much off cooldown at this point and try and see whether or not he's going to be able to take over the game, similar to what we saw on his Twisted Fate? Is PK still going into this 1v1 up against Hanabi? Hanabi, though, like we did mention, it's pretty hard to kill that Karma. Let's take another look here as it's a quick and easy play set up here, actually, onto Gemini.
Yeah, Gemini just getting caught out, as we said. Unburrow into a chain of other spells. Really tricky for the Lee Sin to navigate. Of course, he did use his flash in that top lane gank onto Hanabi. And actually, speaking of top lane, by the way, I'm kind of sad because Renekton is the AD champ and Karma is the AP champ, and yet Renekton's the one that needs abilities to actually fight there, because if you don't have the E, if you don't have the W, there is no way in hell you are getting on top of this Karma.
And unfortunately, too, the one little, side effect of, playing up against that Karma, which we saw from Hanabi when he first got dove, is, well, he's going to run out of mana pretty fast if he's going for these easy trades, but now already picking up his Chalice, working into his Athenes, going to have all that lovely mana regen, and that kind of just cancels out that one weakness. We do see, though, that Machi have decided to rotate their bot lane toward the top side of the map, and maybe Machi wanting to try and at least match PSG if they decide to go for this Rift Herald.
Yeah, a little bit of a delayed match on the PSG bot lane there from Machi, because Machi, yes, they did rotate up, but PSG already had the push, already had the setup, already had Hanabi free casting on that bot lane tower as well. And even if there is a package, PSG, all they have to do is wait it out, and then they can look to set their sights on this Rift Herald.
All right, what's Mission doing with this package? OBs are kind of giving this one away, all right? They were following him all the way to lane. Package available. Are we going to see aggressive Mission come out here? Are we going to see this used just to clear out a minion wave? There is, of course, a Rift Herald to be fought over, especially the fact that you have package as well as Solar Flare as well as Arrow available here for Machi. Might be the go button that they're looking for to at least answer and pick up another neutral objective.
So what I actually like from PSG here is that they're actively fishing for dives bot lane to try and split the Renekton near that turret with the Weaver's Wall, but because they're playing almost exclusively for bot side pressure and because this package is actually pretty formidable, it means Machi can then rotate topside for this quick Herald take.
And there you go. Gemini able to get that under control alongside Koala. No response coming out from PSG, and I'll be frank here, the first 10 minutes has looked a bit similar to the game that we saw between AHQ and PSG, where PSG, they weren't necessarily very active. It was maybe one play coming out of tank, but neutral objectives so far have been just going in favor of their opponents.
Yeah, Machi there had full dominion over that objective as long as the package was up, and now they're just going to use it to funnel gold onto Bruce, because once the Ashe has Blade, that's a one-item power spike that completely trashes Ez until he hits 2, and that will mean that Machi can actively fish for fights around the Arrow, around the Solar Flare, because we mentioned PSG lacking in engage. Machi, on the other hand, no such reservations.
And on top of that, too, like, you take a look toward the side of Machi, and it screams scaling. The longer this game goes, I think the happier they're going to be with the fact that, Mission's going to come online later on. You're also going to have Bruce on that Ashe, and there's this period of time that PSG need to make plays, or they will just fall behind, very similar to how they lost against AHQ.
Exactly that, and it's about pulling the trigger at your spikes. That's why you saw Machi full commit for that Herald just then, while Mission still had the package to threaten. I like looking at PSG continually rotate vision down the spot side, continually threaten a dive onto PK, but Machi, they're communicating it well. They're saying, look, you need to play safe, you need to play respectfully, because we have no idea where the Talia is, probably bot side because they're not contesting the Herald, but now maybe we see both teams crash into each other at this Drake with no package for the Corki.
No package for the Corki, and it is 4 members of Machi into the river, and they're just going to go ahead and clear out the vision away from PSG. You see now that Unified has to play a little farther back. Mission's just going to try and poke back Kaiwing. There is still Tank, though, nearby with that Talia, which now has also picked up the blue buff, so mana's not going to be a major issue, and can always make a quick rotate there, so it's really hard to force priority, but looks like that is going to be the call here coming out from Machi. Mission gets the push in. Looks like instead PSG, they say, we don't care about these dragons. We're going to try and make a play top lane, but PK, he backs off immediately.
Yeah, again, as soon as you see Machi make a big rotation, PSG cede it. They just give control of that side of the map completely, and then they go top lane and can't get anything. PK reads them like a book. And honestly, PSG, they are trading objectives for pressure and then doing nothing with that pressure.
And this is now kind of, screaming back to the point of this is not a composition that used to always work well for PSG. They played this a couple times back in spring, but extremely slow early mid games. That's how Machi loves to play. The reason we saw Machi do so poorly back at the MSS up against the VCS squads was they weren't afraid to go heavy aggressive early on. They weren't afraid to invade onto the jungle, trying to get themselves a couple solo kills in lane. Whereas now you see Tank, who's opted into, playing more of these control mages. They don't have like the champ pool of Candy that they used to have, where he had that Pantheon in the pocket pick to try and force plays in mid lane.
Yeah, and if I had my criticisms of PSG for being too slow, just waiting to scale up to 15 minutes before pulling the trigger, which granted hasn't come quite yet, so maybe we see some big explosive gameplay in the next 60 seconds or so. Machi were the 25-minute team. They were the extra 10 minutes on top of that, where they have a formidable mid to late game, but are completely invisible early. It feels like PSG haven't punished them for that at all this game. In fact, all they've done is reward them and given them a win condition, because the Dragon Soul is going to come online around the same time that Machi truly do start to shine.
And you don't want to give over an Infernal Soul to a Corki, nonetheless, all right? I'm not even going to talk about, the Ashe, but a Corki alone is already devastating once you have the Rockets online later on, when you have, 3 items in your back pocket. And I also got to commend Koala here. He's been doing a great job roaming alongside Gemini for a lot of these plays that if PSG were to play aggressive with an opening that they should have, he's there to answer. And well, other than that one pick that we saw that looked very nice from PSG alongside Tank as well as River, there just hasn't been anything. Even with River trying to push in here into the jungle, top lane, Hanabi has had to concede tower because he's being pressured out.
So, Machi were pretty happy with their rotations and macros so far. My only reservation is the fact that they did recall the Corki to pick up the package on a spike where, he's got the package, but it's at a time where there is no neutral objective to take. I would have liked to have seen them wait a little bit and then use that pressure from the package to actually go, force onto this second Herald, or at least convert a kill somewhere. Instead, they use it kind of selfishly, and Machi, they could have applied more pressure, but get the minimum effective value out of that play.
All right, though, 15 minutes have hit. So for PSG, this is kind of when we said, all right, this is when this team tries to go for plays, tries to make something happen. We already see PK already, because he was able to get that first Brit gold up in the top lane, not afraid to roam down toward mid. Tank has to back off, just clearing out the wave, and it's going to be another reset from both of these squads.
And the issue with PSG is that you said it yourself, they would like to fish for plays around that 15+ minute mark. What can they fish for plays with this game, The Talia will perhaps maybe cut someone off, maybe get a flank somewhere, but besides that, it's really difficult for them to fight on demand, and it just feels like PSG are playing into Machi's hands. They're playing Machi's game, and honestly, it's going to present a pretty sticky situation for them to navigate out of come some of these more threatening team fights.
Well, you see here, instead of even finishing off the Rift Herald, PK is going to be the main target. Still has that slice of dice available. Going to pop the Dominus immediately. Did get knocked up, so we'll see what the play is going to be as River deciding, waiting in on this one. Able to get that knock up, and there you go. A nice kill coming out from PSG, but meanwhile, bot lane, that is Machi getting the pressure in and going to get some gold back onto Bruce.
So PK there actually wanted to fish for an E onto the Rek'Sai who was coming for the flank, but got unburrowed on, got the full front-loaded burst on before he could create space with the second dash and before he could actually flash away from that. He held his flash, trying to get the E down so he could E twice, get double the distance, and then flash for even more safety. But because PSG layered their CC so well, like the flash unburrow, really difficult to play with, bam, 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 burst to the face, one very dead Crocodile, and one big swing in favor of PSG, right around that mark they love to turn it on at.
All right, so there you go. Second kill of the game, as well as your first neutral objective being taken here by PSG, being Shelly. So we'll see what they wish to do with that. Is River's just going to throw it on over the wall, and the already kind of screams, all right, you know what the play is going to be. We just want to try and get Prio in the mid lane. Unfortunately, there is 2 members of Machi just around the corner, so they just rip that down, and Rift Herald isn't really gaining a whole lot there being used by PSG, and now they got themselves a bit of a situation where they might be split. Mission just trying to get some poke down onto Unified over the wall, but you already see River concedes this play as Gemini is also roamed up toward the river. Sure, you're going to get yourself that Weaver's Wall. We'll see whether that's going to be the case. PK flashing on in. It's Solar Flare onto 3 members. That's going to be a cleanse coming out immediately from Unified, able to trade back a kill. It will be 2 kills in favor of PSG.
Tank.
Maybe hunting for a little bit more as Tank still on the hunt here with this Talia. Flashing on forward onto Bruce. Bruce with no mana, forced to flash himself back to safety, but now Koala going to be the next member, and Tank is relentless when it comes to these stones being thrown. Hanabi now underneath the tower, gets himself rooted as well as stunned up. Maybe gets taken down himself, but Tank will be able to finish off the kill. And PSG, they do lose out on the Dragon, but are able to find 3 kills.
So that Herald play from River that really started that off, I think was just him really needing his sweeper for the Drake setup. You see PSG sweep out the vision, move down, and then wait for the Weaver's Wall to be available before pulling the trigger on a fight. That was a beautiful solar flare. The cleanse came through from the Ezreal because he would have been stunned too. That would have been 4-man rather than 3. I guess it counts, 3.5-man solar flare. Either way, Koala coming up huge. And Tank with the chase down in tandem with the Karma was almost enough to really cement this as a win for PSG, despite seeding that Infernal Drake.
So in the end there, they'll be pretty happy. You also got to mention, PK, he was one that was ready to just flash in onto the back line of PSG. Unfortunately, got bursted immediately once he dashed into the minefield that just gets laid down there by Tank. And the Talia pick starting to really ramp up. 100% kill participation, already picking up 3 kills as well as 2 assists. Only one ahead of him so far is Mission, who's been able to rack up now almost a 40 CS lead as he now comes online with his Trinity Force.
Yeah, and I just do want to hop on and on about how fantastic the engage options are for this Machi lineup. The Solar Flare go button, the kick, disengage, engage, the arrow to the face of any member of PSG is a sign for Mission to hard commit, is a sign that this Corki, now on 2 items as you mentioned, can just Q auto someone for half of their health. Machi, their carries are huge right now, and their engage potential to set those carries up for success is insane, regardless of what the kill score on the board may indicate.
So now here for PSG, my question becomes, you've kind of now forced yourself as this team that has to fight the next objective, because now we're looking at a 23-minute Infernal Soul for Machi if they are able to secure the Dragon. And I don't know if you want to fight like you just saw, because even though PSG are able to claim all these kills, gold-wise, it's still pretty much dead even when you take a look at the scoreboard. The only real difference is mainly that mid lane where Mission's able to find an advantage, and meanwhile top lane is just a little bit disparity because it's Hanabi that's been farming up a Storm on the Karma so far. Now I kind of have to ask...
that being said though... all that gold that the Karma has racked up has gone into completely supportive items. This is basically PSG saying, look, we have a Talia wall to split the fight. She's got a defensive-oriented build anyway. We have a Rek'Sai that's rapidly falling off. Okay, Unified, you step up. We'll give you an Ardent, we'll give you an Engage.
I'll give you an Engage, and Bruce gets taken down immediately. Gemini over toward the side, tries to get the kick, able to at least trade back a kill, but now he's going to get dove himself. PK with a very late teleport. River underneath the tower, tries to get himself back a kill, but it's not going to be enough. PK on the hunt, not going to be able to do much else as River gets himself back to safety, and there we go. We said, PSG, when are you going to keep on going? And it seems now that they are confident enough to try and go for these plays, even in the face of an Ash Arrow as well as a Solar Flare from a Leona.
Yeah, sad situation when the PSG comp is the one finding the engage here. But we said Weaver's Wall is their tool. It's the go button. It's the trigger to be pulled. There's the Glacial Fissure that you mentioned they could use offensively as well. And granted, they lose tank. They give away that big shutdown, but they get so much for it. They get an extra kill. They get some extra pressure. They force out the package and stop the side lane threats of Machi in their tracks.
Still, though, that pressure coming out from Mission as well as Bruce. You got a decent amount of poke damage coming through from the marksman, so got to be a little bit careful if you're on the side of PSG. 15 seconds on the Infernal. And for Machi here, if they're able to claim it, Soul is a rather big boost for them as far as damage goes, but you see PSG already getting prio, want to try and get action happening. Mission going to go ahead and teleport in toward the mid lane, so is here for this fight. Now 5,000 health onto the Drake. It does get delayed here as PSG a little bit hesitant, but now question becomes, are you going to do this dance all day? Top lane starting to get pushed in by a decent minion wave. There's your Weaver's Wall. Able to separate the fight. Gemini has to decide, does he want to go for the play or does he want to safeguard back to safety? Q is going to time out. Unified forced to flash away.
PK?
He gets the cleanse out. PK on the flank, but still the damage is there from Tank, but Mission able to get the shutdown as well as Soul secured by Machi. And from PSG, what do you get in response? You can already see that damage that will roll through if you're not careful. They have to back off, still looking to hunt, trying to get a kill back in their favor as Tank wants to step forward to Mission, but it's not going to happen.
You can see Gemini a little bit stoic on his player cam there, and that is because the smite missed by 9 health. An arrow from the Ashe really did secure that. One basic attack set that up for success there. Machi, they get their Infernal Soul and they get this fight down. The Weaver's Wall was really nice, but Renekton comes in with the pincer maneuver. PK tanking up all the cooldowns in the world and really hammering this fight home for Machi.
And now Machi, Infernal Soul has been secured, and you got a poke heavy champion like a Corki as well, an Ashe that can put out volley after volley. And for PSG, where you thought you might excel with Tank, well, now it gets a little bit, difficult, especially for these fights that might get set up by Machi if they're able to get enough poke damage down.
And so I do really just want to touch on something in terms of compositional strength and carry identification here. Because we mentioned before, Hanabi, full support, banking on Unified doing a lot of work here. Even go for the Mikhail's next item to cleanse his carries out of trouble. What I want to look at, on the other hand, is the fact you have Mission
Tank.
now with a big CS deficit and an engage.
Tank, he ends up getting knocked off the wall, though, and Gemini is able to find the kill. Now Bruce wants to step on forward. Mission with the package, able to get a decent amount of damage. Kaiwing soaking up what he can, but you can see that Infernal just chunk out members of PSG. And with Tank down as well as Kaiwing, eyes set toward the Baron.
Yeah, Bruce is down on CS because they're funneling it all into Mission. Mission is huge right now. Mission carries that fight, and Mission deals so much DPS to this Baron that I don't think River can even get anywhere close to think about a steal here.
And there you go, Machi now with a 3,000 gold lead, Soul secured as well as Baron can look to blow this game wide open. Let's take a look at what happened to Tank.
Yeah, a little bit of a crazy engage coming through from Koala there. Goes into 3 people. Would have been 4 had the Talia not actually pulled the trigger on the wall to start that. And instead just flashes over, gets the Talia in combat so she falls off of the wall, locks him down. No Banshee up for Tank either at the time, so just really clumsy, aggressive play coming through from PSG's newest member.
And unfortunately for PSG, if you lose out tank early on during the fights, there goes a decent chunk of your damage because, like we mentioned, Hanabi going much more into a support-esque build, of course, when you go Athenes as well as Ardent, and like we mentioned, Crucible now getting finished. And for Unified, only on to his 2.5 item. He's still a little bit before he's going to get into that hyper carry as state, and the timer has been ticking for PSG. We mentioned earlier part of the game, they had their opening where, you know, Machi are going to play a little bit more defensively, but we've hit now 25 minutes. Machi have gotten every objective pretty much in their favor outside of the single Rift Herald that was taken by PSG, and this is looking like how PSG fell to HQ only 2 weeks ago.
Infernal Soul, Baron buff, it is all good for Machi here. Playing bot, playing mid, and the issue is that if PSG continue to get pulled around the map like this, suddenly, if they're hard committing mid to try and clear out the waves there, bot is down. Suddenly, if they're trying to depush 2 lanes at once, you're getting an Ash Arrow to the face, a Solar Flare to the face, a big engage that PSG are really just gonna fold under if Machi decide to pull the trigger.
And now Mission's just going to go into his Paradise, the side lane, with his Corki. Also has teleport available, and we're still waiting on that next package, but still, it's going to be 2 minutes until the Elder Dragon, and at this point, we'll see whether or not Machi is able to maybe knock down an inhibitor tower. Maybe a little bit difficult on this first push, but in prime position to really blow open this game if one member, like Hanabi almost just there, gets caught out. Arrow, though, missing from Bruce.
Yeah, actually very, very confident from Hanabi there. It missed by a hair. The hitbox, the engage, the aggression still continues. That top lane inhib tower goes down. Yeah. PSG, what are you doing?
It's a slow PSG game, and this has always been a criticism that we have had of this squad where, you know what, they look so good when they play aggressive, when they try and go for plays, when they're pretty much not capped to a team composition that requires them to have to, I guess, scale up a little bit in the form of this Ezreal. And we kind of have to beg the question, you know, for Unified, is this necessarily going to be the optimal pick when it comes later down into playoffs, or is falling back to this style where Hanabi has to go onto a support champion just not working out for PSG?
PSG now, they've weathered the Baron Storm, however, so they do have a little bit of breathing room when it comes to playing their game. They have long-range engage in the Weaver's Wall, but they have a lot of disengage to create space for Unified to poke from a distance. And again, we're seeing single threat comps that build around an Ezreal. The Ezreal builds defensively. Why? Why not just go Blade and actually carry your team over the finish line?
At least he didn't go Iceborne, because I know then we would have lost you completely, Abriz. But there you go. Elder Drake is online, and Machi are looking to secure it. Package available for mission. You already see him looking to line up Vision deep into the jungle of PSG, getting Prio into that bot lane, and they will rip apart this Elder Drake extremely fast. We saw what happened when it came to the Baron. Mission already even stepping up, says if you want to try and do anything yourself, we will take you down. You can see that chunk of damage too, even onto Kaiwing, someone who's supposed to be a little bit more tankier. And there you go. Elder Dragon has been started by Bruce. PSG, what do? You lose out here on the Elder Drake, and it can be devastating to any kind of team fight you possibly take yourself. Kaiwing looking to step on forward. Two-shot barrage, able to get a little bit of damage, 4,000 health. You need a miracle steal. You need to make something happen here. River, we see it did it before during the championship finals. Is it going to happen? No sorry. Elder Drake online for Machi, and they're looking to roast down PSG as that forces them to flash out to safety. Hanabi can't escape the execute. It's a kill over to Bruce, and that is PSG limping back to their base. PK, though, on the flank, wants to clean up these last remaining members. Gemini maybe gets a little bit too close to the action, but now Elder buff secured by Machi.
Elder buff, Infernal Soul, insanely fed Corki, and suddenly these rockets are dealing 1/3 of your health. Machi, they are huge, and they are looking to close this one out. The budget Weaver's Wall in the package splits the fight and sets Machi up to close this game.
True Shot Barrage, even
Or
just
not.
tagging Koala, but unfortunately not a whole lot happens. And you saw PSG, they didn't have anything for this fight, what they could do. River couldn't get in close. Gemini was able to finish things off. It was rather easy.
They waited out the package pretty admirably, but PK just full commit onto River, and the Rek'Sai has no chance of getting into the pit. Again, I kind of expressed my disdain for the Rek'Sai pick in Champ Select, where I said this champion needs to be proactive, needs to do a lot in the first 15 minutes, and yet we just see PSG that was a cool kick, but yeah, we just saw PSG default to their scale kind of mid-game promised land kind of comp and playstyle, and that really just doesn't fit the Rek'Sai at all.
And things get bad to worse now as Mission has opted to actually go into the Phantom
Arrow.
Dancer as Arrow comes out from Bruce. Maybe a little too excited, but you now have the bot lane inhibitor exposed and taken down. Baron buff available here for Machi, and this is looking to seal the deal. If they're able to take this, it's up to River to maybe find a steal in their favor. He is equal when it comes to level. You see how fast that goes down with just Gemini and Bruce. That isn't with Mission even getting damage on. Engage coming out from Kai when wants to try and jump in. Koala maybe a little bit too close to the action. So though, and you see the damage that's going to rain in onto the backside is PK. Slice and dices his way into the back line. Unified gets executed by Mission. The shutdown, the Ezreal gone. The only win condition for PSG evaporated off the tail end of the fight, and now the push comes in onto the base.
Yeah, disgustingly hard commitment for Koala on a fairly tanky Leona. You saw PSG just completely focus tunnel vision and get taken down accordingly.
And with this, Machi look to remain in the contention for a world slot when it comes to the PCS, getting revenge over the regional rivals, taking down PSG, and tying up the round robin head-to-head 1-1.
And with 3 losses this split so far, PSG looking more than mortal. No longer do we have an untouchable first seed. We now have Machi contesting for the top of the standings.
And I gotta now wonder, PSG, 2 back-to-back losses that have revolved around this composition that is, well, we'll kind of just let an Ezreal carry. But unfortunately, like, sure, there's also the Talia kind of leaned in there, but every time we've seen Hanabi onto something that's a bit more supportive, outside of, you know, heavy favored matchups they are coming into when they go up against something like, say, maybe Liab, which, again, they'll get to play actually later today. There might be an opportunity for PSG to at least equal out their day 1-1. These slow compositions, they just don't work up against Machi, which you know Machi is weak in early games. If you attack them in the early game, it usually pans out well.
Yeah, I have really, really big question marks around the draft of PSG. Not only did they pick a jungler that can't do anything past 15 minutes, which is where they start playing the game as a unit, but as well as that, they draft themselves a composition with no real hard engage, bar maybe a Talia flank wall. And you said it yourself, the Talia was the secondary carry. The Talia was the reinforcement for the Ezreal, and if she's committing herself into the enemy backline trying to split a fight, you're already down 1 carry to start with, which is never a good position to be in.
And I think we're just starting to see some of the frustrations that came from the spring performance of PSG. This is kind of what we saw during the midpoint of the regular season, where they started to fall to, again, matchups that we expected, hey, you should be doing well, but it seems like the hot streak that's been coming out from Machi and the lack of proactive opportunities coming out from PSG ends up, you know, putting the nail in the coffin when it comes to this matchup.
Yeah, a bit of a depressing realization for me here is that this Talia, I think come spring, would have been Pantheon for Candy, and perhaps then we would have seen a completely different PSG. We would have seen reliable engage out of the Pantheon, we would have seen a very proactive early game in tandem with the Rek'Sai, and genuinely, I am a big fan of Tank. You know, we mentioned former Snake player, did a lot of work over in the LPL, Challengers Korea as well. But at the same time, I feel like this team is still adjusting to having lost their star mid laner just a couple of weeks ago.
And you can see that damage total. Mission unmatched. There's a reason this guy is famous for his Corki, and while he won't be getting the MVP this time around, it's going to go on over to Koala for his Leona engages to help secure the victory over PSG.
Yeah, the 3-4-man solo flares were pretty clean, just forcing out the cleanse from the Ezreal time and time again. And as we said, any game where anyone has to go Merc Treads rather than Ninja Tabi against Corki, Ashe, Renekton, Lee Sin is a win for the support that is hitting every CC spell in the book.
It's pretty doomed, unfortunately, if you're on the side of PSG in that kind of instance. So, again, congratulations over to Machi. Like I mentioned, they now are tied with PSG in the head-to-head when it comes to the round robin, 1-1. So if there is possibly a tie-break at the end of the season, if they're tied in the standings, means that they will be able to play out at least one more, as we will be going on over to an interview quite shortly, as you guys just saw. So we will be passing it on over to Patty, who has an interview with the support MVP from Machi. Of course, it is going to be Koala.
大家好，我是 Koala。好的，那现在已经进入第2轮的赛事了，其实距离季后赛也越来越近了。那即将要进入到季后赛，目前队伍调整的状态是怎么样的呢？
So we're now in the second round of summer season and almost going to playoffs. So how does your team is relatively speaking have a better chance of getting into playoffs? So how is your team at the moment? How is your condition?
就是我就是为了进世界赛，然后每个现在都非常认真的练习，然后调整也越来越好，然后第2轮应该也会拿下更多的胜利。
So because we really want to get into Worlds, so all our players are very focused in game and practiced a lot, and we'll do better and better in the second round, we think.
好，那第2题想要问一下 Koala， 就是现在队伍的主扣是谁？然后在队伍现在目前实力这么接近的情况下，沟通是非常重要的嘛？那如果在比赛中遇到可能有一些意见不合的地方，你们是怎么解决的？
So who is the main caller on the team at the moment? You see, all the top teams are very close at the moment, so your communication is relatively very important. So what if there's an argument during game? How do you solve those issues?
目前主扣就是我，然后如果真的比赛遇到什么争吵什么，就是可能会跟他们说，就是比赛还是就赶快认真打好，然后如果有什么争吵，还是检讨的时候再说吧，对吧？
So I am the main caller on the team at the moment. So if I would tell my teammates that if there's an argument, we have to finish the game and do our best in the game and solve those issues later and talk about them later.
那也恭喜你们拿下胜利，也感谢翻译的帮忙。不过呢，其实我觉得啊，就是对于 Machi 而言的话呢，他们应该是不用。
Interesting.
Well, it looks like
再加问一题好，那我想问一下口啊好，就是因为你们其实，在第1轮的状况下是没有赢过像 J Team 嘛，然后也没有赢过 PSG。那今天就是算是一血前耻，就在第2轮打败了 PSG， 目前感觉如何？
So you guys didn't win in the first round. You guys didn't win teams like J Team. So now you won them. So how do you feel?
就目前感觉还蛮开心，就是第1轮没有赢的队伍，我们就是尽量第2轮的时候都把它赢下来，然后我们也只剩 J Team 还没赢而已。
Okay, so so for the teams that we didn't win in the first round, we're gonna win them in the second round.
就看一下能不能够战胜自己可能在第1轮没有去战胜对手，而且在前面也有提到，就是其实 Machi 在面对上比较前半段的队伍，他们在第1轮都是输掉了嘛。不过在第2轮的确看起来是有状态的调整。那现在我们是要再我要再问一题哦，没有，
结束了。
我刚想说，有隐藏问。
Well, you saw there, overall, solving their issues, if that's going to be the case there for Machi, and always growing, it seems. So, again, congratulations on over to Koala, of course, picking up the MVP on the Leona, and Machi, they were able to take home the victory over the regional rivals in the form of PSG Talon, and they equal out that 16-game record, 8-8 when it comes to the standings. But, of course, we're going to go ahead and take a short break. When we come back, though, it's the debut of World 6 when it comes to the PCS. We'll see whether or not the LPL vet can help lead Alpha to a victory over Liab.
CTBC Bank is Taiwan's top financial institution, but we're not stopping there. We're crafting an international brand and already have over 260 outlets in 14 countries. We are by your side, ready to embrace the future.